Hello, and welcome to this training video. This session is going to be an overview of the calendar as well as going over some of the preferences inside of it. So let's go ahead and get started. To access the calendar, we're going to hover over this tab, and we can click directly on it, or you can jump right to the month calendar, the multiple employee calendar, or a week view of the calendar. We're just going to click right here on the calendar tab, and that's going to bring us to this page. So let's talk about the general layout of the default landing page of the calendar. The first thing that I want to point out is it's going to default to your own personal calendar or whoever you're logged in as. Okay, but you will have access to every other employee's calendar inside of the database. You just have to choose the person you want, and then it will flip to show that calendar. Now, you also have access to 3 different views. You can look at the daily view, which is what we're on right now. You can look at the week view, or you can look at the month view. Okay, now with these tasks that you're seeing on this user's calendar, if you hover over these tasks, it will give you a more definite idea of what the actual task is. So on this one, I can see the customer's name, the job number, the job address, phone number, all that's available to me. Also, these tasks are color-coded. A red task means a general calendar event, which would be something like vacation time or out of the office for a doctor's appointment. A green task is marketing related. This yellowish color means this task has been completed, and there's none showing on this calendar right now, but if you see a blue task, that is related to a specific job or a job task. Okay, let's go back to our week view, and let's look over here to the left. If you want to jump ahead to a specific day, all I have to do is click on a date, and that will take me directly to it inside of the calendar. Now, since I'm looking at the week view, it starts on that day, and then it gives me the next 7 days. That brings us to the preferences portion of the calendar. If I look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a preferences tab, and there are a few different options on your preferences. You can do a day preference, a weekly preference, or a groups preference. So let's talk about the day preference, but before we do that, let's go over to the day view, and let's go back to our preferences tab. All right, so the first thing that we have to decide on is what hours do we want to appear. Okay, I can just show the business hours, which the business hours will be established by your administrator inside of the administration tab. Okay, I can do 24 hours full screen or 24 hours fixed height. Basically what this is how much real estate of your screen do you want this to take up. So if I clicked on the 24 hours fixed height and then I click on the apply button, then the real estate's only going to be in this area. Okay, whereas if I went full screen, the rest of the calendar anywhere past 2 o'clock would be just listed below. But with this fixed height, I have to scroll up and down inside of the calendar to see my times. So that's really the only difference there. All right, let's go back to our preferences. Okay, the next thing that we have is our scale. So right now we're set in 30-minute increments, and what that means is for every hour, here's a little block, and then here's a little block. So there's 2 blocks per hour, which are broken up into 30-minute intervals. But I can change that as well. If I want to drop it to 15-minute intervals, I'm just going to click on the apply button. And now you can see that inside of a certain hour, I have 4 blocks, which indicate 15-minute intervals. All right. And then the last thing that we have inside of this preferences section is my date format. So right now I'm looking at a date, month, year breakdown, which is this right here. So day, month, year. But I have other options. I can just have it say the day, the month, and the day. Ultimately, it's up to you on that. Now, we have a weeks view, which is the same options, except I can do a 5-day week or a 7-day week. And the week view is this option right here. So we'll click on it real quick. And then I have the same options: business hours, 24 hours fixed height, and then here's my scale that I want. But the only difference is I can have a 5-day week and a 7-day week. Okay, we'll talk about this groups tab in a second once we start talking about the group calendar here in a few minutes. Okay, so let's talk about our print options. Okay, so with my print options, I have a few different ways I can go about it. I can print a full calendar, which will give me everything that I'm seeing right now, and it will give me every bit of text that's showing up in these different tasks. Okay, I can print it without job alerts, so if a job was created with a job alert on it, I have the option of hiding the job alert. And an example of a job alert would be, we need to create a notifier that lets everybody know not to ask for the husband when they call this customer because the husband passed away in the fire. Okay, this message won't show up on the calendar, so when we print this out, it won't be displaying there. It'll only be tucked inside of that job. Okay, I can print it without special instructions, and that's important because if the special instructions contain a lockbox code or a gate code to get into a community, I may not want to print that out on a calendar and give it to one of my technicians, because if they leave it on site, then someone could find that and then they have the gate code to get inside of a certain community. Okay, then I can select my date range. I can print just today's date. I can print the previous week, the previous month, or I can even print a custom range, which will allow me to choose my start date and my end date. So I'll just choose the 24th of December to the 30th of December, and then I'll click on my print button. And then here's how it prints. It's just going to give you a breakdown of this user because we're on this user's calendar. And then here's everything that they have to do within this time frame. So they have a work order for this particular job on this day, and here's what they're doing. And then here's just everything listed for this particular employee on their calendar from the date range we had selected. So I have the option of hiding job alerts. I can hide special instructions if I need to. It all depends on how you want to physically print that out. Okay, you can print it from right here and send it to your own local printer, or you can export it to a PDF file, and then from there you can email it to whoever it needs to go to directly from the computer. You don't have to physically print it out if you don't need to. Okay, all right, so we will close this here. Okay, so now let's talk about how can I physically put something on a calendar for this user or any other user, because remember, you'll have access to everybody's calendar with this drop-down menu. You're going to utilize a click and drag method to put something on someone's calendar. All right, so let's say that I want to put something on the 29th of December for Franny here. To put this on, I'm going to find the time that I want, and I'm just going to click and drag to the stopping point of this particular activity. So I've click and drug with my mouse, and I'm starting at 4 p.m. and I'm ending at 6 p.m. Once I've drug in the area that I want, I'm going to release my click, and that's going to bring me to this screen where I can set up the appointment. Okay, so we'll just kind of run through this real quick. There are 3 types of tasks I can create: job-related tasks, marketing-related tasks, or calendar events. Now, if you want more information on the detailed setup of these 3 items, feel free to check out the training videos for just those items, but we'll just set up a dummy job action item real quick. All right, so since we're setting up a job-related task, here's where I'm going to choose which job this is associated to. Now, this drop-down menu is going to provide me with a list of all the jobs in my database. So all I have to do now is either scroll through this list and find the job that I want, or I can start typing either the job number or the customer's name, and it's going to match what I've typed out. And then I just choose that particular job. Now, since I've chosen this job, when this task shows up on this user's calendar, it's going to display phone number, job number, customer name, address. All that will be visible from the calendar. Okay, now, here's a list of employees inside of your database. Over here to the right is currently who we have assigned to this task. The nice thing about this section is I can assign more people than just one to this by clicking on that person's name and then moving them over here to the right. Now, whoever is in this white box to the right is going to be having this task put on their personal calendar. Okay? I can select as many people as I need to, and if I want to do a few people at the same time, hold down the control button and select, and then move the arrow over. If I put too many people over here and I need to take someone off, just click on their name and click on this arrow to move them back, and now they're back over here. Okay, now the double arrows will allow you to move everyone, and then I can move everyone back over if I want to. Okay, but if I just want one person here, then we'll just find Franny again and move them over there. Okay, all right, so email task to recipient. If I click on this checkbox, then whoever I have listed in this white box will receive an email, and inside of that email will be a file, an attachment that they can use to attach it to their external calendar. So their phone, for example, they can accept this and put it on their phone's calendar. Just if I have this checkbox checked. If I don't have it checked, that's fine. It's still going to show up inside of the application. Okay, so it'll still be visible on their calendar inside of the program. But if you check it, it's going to show up in the program, and it's going to send them an external email. All right, the next thing that we have is our due date, start time, and end time. Now, this is based on, it's already filled in based on the area that we click and drug on a moment ago to get to this screen. But you can edit this if you need to. If you drug too far or not far enough, or if you chose the wrong date, you can edit any of this information. Okay, these are just text boxes, so I can click in any of them and make a change to it. Okay, the task box, this is where we're going to type out what they're going to be doing. Okay, now the completed checkbox, we're not going to mark this box yet because it hasn't been completed. We're just setting up the appointment itself. The recurring event, all this is going to allow me to do is, do I need to put multiple tasks for this same thing several times on this person's calendar? For example, I could say, I want this task, this same task, to show up for the next 3 weeks on this person's calendar. Then I could select weekly, but I could also select daily, monthly, bi-weekly, quarterly, or annually. And then I want this to show up for the next 3 weeks, and then it would show up for the next 3 weeks there. Just understand that if I type in the number 3 here, an email is only going to be sent once for the initial task itself. Okay. All right, so we're just going to uncheck that because I don't want it to be a recurring task. And then I'm going to click on my Save button. Okay, and if I scroll down, now I can see that this job task is now sitting on this person's calendar. And if I hover over it, just remember, if you hover, you can just get a more detailed breakdown if it's a very small window and you can't really see everything that's been typed there. Now, once something is put on someone's calendar, I can move my mouse to the top of it and get that 4-pronged arrow and just click and drag it to another date if I need to, or I can move it up and down to a different time. If I need to expand the time on it, I can just move my mouse down to the bottom of it till I get that 2-pronged arrow, click and drag, and I can expand it. Okay, just remember, this is not going to resend out an email to them with the updated time. Okay, now the last thing that we'll talk about from this page is if I want to complete this task, I can just double click on it, and then I can just mark it completed, select the day it was completed on, and then I can save. And now we'll scroll down again, and now it's that mustard yellow shade, which indicates that this task has been completed. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is let's talk about the different views of the calendar that we have, and we're going to utilize this drop-down menu to get there. So we're already looking at the employee view. So let's look at the multiple employee day calendar. Okay, so this is going to allow you to select multiple employees at the same time and then see all their calendars at once. So over here, I already have a few calendars selected, so I'm just going to click off of these so I can just see one for the time being. Okay, so now we're looking at Bob's calendar, but if I want to look at somebody else's, I can hold down the control button and select someone else's name. And now if I scroll down, I can see Franny's as well. The nice thing about this page, if I click and drag on somebody's calendar and put a task on it, it's going to, by default, select everybody else I'm looking at right now, so I could put a task on multiple calendars at the same time automatically, okay? But the clicking and dragging works the same exact way here as it does on the employee calendar. I can select as many people as I need to by holding down the control button. And now I can see all their calendars. And if I want to take somebody off, but I want to leave the other people, hold down the control button again, and then just click on their name. Now, in this view by menu as well, you have a multiple calendar week and month view, which is the same thing as the day calendar, except of course you're seeing an entire week or an entire month. So no functionality changes there. The last calendar view we're going to talk about is the group calendar. And this is where you can create predefined groups of certain employees so I can see them all at the same time. Okay, so right now we're looking at the technician calendar, and this is already a predefined group of technicians. To create a new group, you just use this this puzzle piece. We'll set up a carpet cleaning one real quick just to show you. And we're going to hold down the control button to select more than one person and then save it. And now I can click on that group. And then I can just see all of these calendars at the same time. Clicking and dragging is the same to put it on their calendar, except now you're going side to side instead of up to down. And then once I get here, it's the same exact thing that we were doing before. Do I want it to be job related, marketing related, or a calendar event? And the nice thing about the groups, I'm going to click on my back button here. The nice thing about the groups is somebody can be in multiple groups. They're not limited to just one. It's all in the number of groups that you want to create inside of that group calendar. Okay. You have the same print options on this calendar as we did on that employee calendar. The same print options are everywhere. The only other thing that we'll talk about before adjourning here is my preferences for my group calendar. So preferences, groups, you have two options. You can say how many days I want to see on a single viewing of the calendar. Right now, for example, I'm set at 7 days, so I'm seeing 7 days on my calendar, but I could shrink that if I wanted to, so I could just say 5. And then what is my start time and end time for the calendar? So right now, the first hour that appears is 7 a.m. for a day, and then it stops for a certain day at 7 p.m. But I could say we need to just make that 6 p.m., and then we'll apply here. Okay, so now that that is finished saving, I'm now only viewing 5 days at a time, and it goes from 7 a.m., and then if you get to this line right here, that's 6 o'clock. So even though it doesn't say 6 here, I have a full 5 o'clock block, so at the end of that 5 o'clock block would be 6 o'clock. So now that that's set up the way I wanted it to. Okay, so that's going to wrap up our calendar overview and printing options video, as well as our preferences. We have other training videos that go more in depth on the group calendar or the multiple employee calendar, how to set up job action items, marketing action items, or calendar events. Please feel free to check out those for more information, or we have training videos on any other area of the application that you see fit, okay? So thank you very much and have a great day.